Apparently I'm live, I hope. A little error there in starting. Okay, I'm here. Sorry, I get a little discombobulated there with the error. Okay, I'm here to talk about submitting to an anthology, like this one. This is one of the ones I submitted to way back. Anyway, and the talk today is going to be about the types of anthologies, submission etiquette, contracts, and where to find submissions. So I'm just going to briefly go over some basics for people who want to start submitting short stories to different anthologies and places, and basically go over what you need to know, what you need to do, and things like that. So here we go. We're starting first with the types of anthologies, and basically it comes down to paying and non-paying. Real simple. Okay, so with paying anthologies, you have the ones that pay royalties, which basically means you get a cut of whatever the publisher makes on the book. And generally that cut is very tiny because an anthology, it's hard, difficult thing to say, but anthologies don't generally make a lot of money in today's market. They used to make money, but not so much these days. So if you're getting like 10% or 15 whatever percent of the profit split 13 ways, that's not a lot of percent. And so, yeah, you're not going to make a lot of money on royalty paying anthologies. It is a nice way to get your feet wet if you don't mind waiting for money. Because, I mean, sometimes it depends on the anthology too, whether or not how much money it makes. If you've got a decent enough publisher putting a good market push on it, you might make a little bit of change. Not much, but a little bit, enough to justify writing the story. But you're probably going to have to wait for it. And some anthologies have a clause in their contract that they have to wait to, like, say, a minimum payout, like $10, before they will pay you. So you could be waiting a year or more to get your payment if you do a royalty paying anthology. But like I said, like I said, if you want to get your feet wet and you don't mind waiting for payment, or you're willing to, settle for a smaller payment, then a royalty paying anthology isn't a bad thing. I mean, and it's sometimes you can find something that has like a themed anthology that you really want to write for. It's not a bad thing, but just don't expect to get paid a lot for a royalty paying anthology. And now that comes to our second paying anthology, which is a flat rate, which basically means the publisher agrees to pay you a flat fee to write a story. End of story. So you get your money, you write your story, that's it. That's a pretty good deal. I mean, of course, it depends on how much they're paying you. But yeah, a flat rate payment isn't bad. And then there's the other paying, which is per word. So basically, it depends on how many words you write as to how much money you're going to get for your story, if, of course, it's accepted. So like a 5,000 word story will get paid less than a 7,000 word story. And it also depends on how much per word they're going to pay you, because the rates vary. There's a semi-pro rate and a pro rate. And basically, it needs a little math to figure out how much you're going to get paid once you write the story and once it's accepted. So basically, that's your paying markets. So, yeah. So you basically, if you're going to submit to a paying market, you got to decide which one you're going to go with, which one you're going to accept, and live with it. So now we come to the non-paying markets. Now, of course, you're saying here, I'm sure, why would you submit to a non-paying market? Good question. Because, yeah, not exactly your best choice when you want to submit to a story. But there are some exceptions to the rule of not submitting to a non-paying market. And that is if you want to test out a publisher, some small press publishers do anthologies as well as publish books. And if you're interested in the publishing company as a whole, submitting to a non-paying anthology might be a good way to check out the publishers, how you work with them, what kind of editing they have, how their marketing system works. So it might be a good, that's a reason to submit to a non-paying anthology. Another reason is for smaller fiction like drabbles, which is 100-word stories, or flash fiction, which is generally under 1,500 words. Those markets, there's not as much opportunity for paying markets with those stories. And if you just want to submit to an online magazine that doesn't pay, that accepts drabbles or flash fiction, then yeah, that's the reason to submit to a non-paying market. Because again, some of those magazines will accept short stories that do pay. So it's a good way to get a little foot in the door if you're going to submit a smaller, and to check them out. So there's a reason. And the third reason to submit to a non-paying market, and this is the one I do, is for a charity anthology. Now, of course, with a charity anthology, all the profits for the anthology goes to the charity. Now, it's a good way to get your stories out, but it's also a good way to give something back, for the charity. And it's a nice thing to do. And I do a charity anthology every year, the Christmas Lights series, and I've got one. That one's coming up in December, the newest one, and I just submitted my story to that. So you'll hopefully we'll be reading all about the Great North Pole War this December. But anyway, so that's the other reason that one might submit to a non-paying market. Okay, so that's the types of anthologies. Now we'll go on to submission etiquette. Now, first thing, and basically the one only cardinal rule is read the guidelines of the publisher. If you are going to submit your story to any anthology, read their guidelines and follow them, because the guidelines are there for a reason. They're there to help the editors. They're there to help the people going through the slush pile of submissions. And the reason they have these guidelines is because they have a system. So don't screw up their system. Follow their guidelines. Now, sometimes they don't have guidelines. They don't have formatting they want you to use. So if that's the case, the best way to submit your story is to use the Shun formatting standard. It's basic, and I had a thing set up and I forgot to set it up. Okay. Bear with me for a minute and see if I can find this. Yeah, I'm an idiot. Okay, so the Shun formatting standard is your basic way to format a short story for submission. And if I can find, there we go. Okay, I found it. Now we're going to see if we can share the screen so I can give you an idea. There we go. Okay, here we go. We're sharing the screen. This is what the William Shun formatting thing looks like. There we go. All right. There, okay. See, there's the short story format, and it basically tells you, it's got a little thing here, and it tells you how to set your thing up, how to space it, what information to put in, word count, everything. So that's how it is. And I'll put these links in the comments or the description later, so you guys can take a look at them. And there, we're back. Okay, so yeah, so that's basically what you do if you're without a guideline. I mean, a lot of guidelines will actually tell you that's what they want, is the Shun formatting system. So yeah, I'm looking for the next screen share. That's why I'm rambling here. So just bear with me. Okay. Yeah. I was supposed to be all prepared and have this set up before I went, and yay, I didn't. Okay. So that's basically formatting. So basically, read their guidelines, follow their guidelines, do what they want you to do. And if you don't have guidelines, fall back on the Shun formatting standard, because basically it makes a nice, clean document, and people like it. Okay, so and now we're going to contracts. So basically, if you get accepted into an anthology, you will be sent a contract. First rule of contract is read it. Yeah, simple. Read your contract, all of it, straight from the beginning to the end, because it will have clauses in it that you need to know about. And I'm going to talk about a few of them here. Okay. For instance, like I mentioned earlier, if you're doing a royalty paying anthology, probably in your contract will be a stipulation that you will not get paid until till the payments reach a certain level, say $10. Now, there's a reason for this, because a lot of publishers, especially the smaller indie presses, these days they pay you electronically through something like PayPal. Now, of course, these things have fees attached to them. And so the publisher is going to lose money, or spend extra money if they have to pay you for every 5 cents royalty that they get. So they're just going to sort of stockpile your royalties up until you reach a certain level and then pay you, because overall it saves them money. So so if you're doing a royalty pay anthology, look for the payment limit stipulation in your contract, if there is one. And make sure you know what limit you have to reach before you get any cash. Okay, and then also you want to take a look at the types of rights they're asking for in your contract. Oh, I had another one. I had another screen share set up for this. Just hang on. Okay, here we go. Looking for screen shares again. Yes, yeah, there we go. Okay, I'm so organized, aren't I? Not. Okay, so the kind of rights. Now, first of all, I'm going to tell you what kind of rights to avoid. If you see something in there asking you for perpetual rights, run. And I mean it, run. You don't want to sign any contract where you're signing away your perpetual rights to that story, ever. Because that means basically they own the story forever, and you can't ever put it out into reprint or anything like that. So do not sign a contract that has the word perpetual in it, ever. And secondly, be wary of the word exclusive. Now, that one has different connotations of it. Sometimes they'll want exclusive rights for a certain period of time, which is okay. Depends on the context of that. But sometimes they'll want exclusive rights, and that can be a bit open-ended. So be careful and check the wording. If you see exclusive, check the wording on that. Because if they want exclusive rights for, say, 6 months, and then they open it up or whatever, that's generally not too bad. But anyway, so be careful about things like that, exclusive, perpetual. Read your contract very carefully on the rights. Anyway, because most of them, they just want standard rights. Anyway, and this is where the screen share is going to come in. I'm going to show you a page where you can go and take a look at at your rights. And there you go. Rights, what they mean and why they're important. So that's basically, you can find pages and websites and things that'll tell you your rights. Just go over and check them, find out what your rights mean, and so you'll understand the contracts better. Anyway, and I'll leave that link around here somewhere too. So anyway, so that's basically on the rights. Just make sure you read your rights, make sure there's nothing hinky. And if there is something hinky and you don't quite understand what they mean, ask your publisher to clarify them. If it's a legitimate thing, and the publisher will clarify it for you. If it's not, they'll start getting defensive. If your publisher starts getting defensive when you're asking questions about a contract, that's not a good sign. Yeah. So you want to avoid publishers like that. Anyway, and now we're going on to basically what happens after they have their rights, and the rights will revert back to you. Because in any contract, or any good contract, the rights of that story will revert back to you after a period of time, maybe 3 years, maybe 5 years, depending on whatever contract you're signing. And once you get the rights back, you can sell it for reprints if you so choose, or you can renew your contract for if there's an option for that as well. So anyway, and but when you're in those rights contracts, there's generally a clause that says you can buy back your rights if there's an issue, if there's a problem, or if your publisher just turns out to be a real jerk, which hopefully doesn't happen, but so basically, and so read that too, because if you have to buy back your rights, it may cost you a lot of money, a lot more money than you're willing to pay. So you may end up having to just put up with whatever problems or try and solve through them. So make sure you read that. Make sure that if there's a buyback clause in it as well. And also make sure you read the liability, what you are actually liable for. Like what you're required to do in that contract. Like if there's marketing clauses in it, that you have to do such and such marketing in order to, because I mean that can come back and bite you if you don't do it. So make sure you read your liabilities as well as that. And also in buying back the rights or getting back your rights, check and see if they have any clauses if the company goes out of business. Now, they may not be worth much, actually, if the company does go bankrupt or out of business, as to getting your rights back, because those bankruptcy clauses don't necessarily hold up well. So, but still, you should check it and see what exactly your rights are in that case if the publisher goes belly up. And you want to know what's going to happen to your story. So that's basically a basic overview of rights. And then now we're going to tell where to find submissions. Okay, so basically, easiest way to find submissions, just Google it. Just Google your genre, submissions, anthology, and stuff will come up. There's also a lot of groups on Facebook, open call submission groups. Check them out, find them. There's there's different genres. I belong to a couple of horror ones. Yeah, there's some for fantasy, poetry stuff, all sorts of things you can find on Facebook. And then there's anthology finder sites like the Duotrope. That's a paid one. But there's also one, the Submission Grinder, and we will screen share this one. Whoops, gotta unscreen share that. Yeah, screen share. Here we go. All right, there's the Submission Grinder. Here we go. Okay, yeah, that's the Submission Grinder. That it's basically these things are search websites. You go on, you put your qualifications into the search. Like if you want a fantasy anthology that pays so and such a per word, or or horror or whatever, you put all your keywords and whatever thingies in the search engines, click search, and they'll give you a list of things you can look at, and then you just go and see if you can find anything. So that's basically how you find submissions. You just basically search for them. And then, of course, you can have word of mouth, and people post things in Facebook groups and on Twitter and stuff. So, I mean, you just basically have to have a little legwork to find your submission anthologies. And then, of course, once you do find your submission anthologies, what you do, you read the guidelines. Yes, of course you do. Anyway, so basically, then you write your story and you submit it following their guidelines. And then you wait. Now, most people, most things, they take a couple of months, several months sometimes, to get back to you. So don't panic if you don't hear from them. Worst thing you can do is panic and pester them. Don't pester them. Anyway, so yeah, and then you'll either get rejected or you'll get accepted. And if you get accepted, then you get into the contracts and the editing and the blah, 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 blah until the thing's published and you hold the little book in your hand and you smile. And then you do the dreaded marketing, but that's another story. Anyway, so that's basically how you submit to an anthology. And so I hope all you would-be story writers out there got some information, some tips from this. And that's it for today. And I hope to do these author advice segments once or twice a month. And next one will be maybe end of August, in a week or two, 1st of September sometime, on Twitter, how to use Twitter as an author. Because I know a lot of people don't like Twitter. Authors don't like Twitter. And I mean, you don't have to be on Twitter, but if you're interested and you don't know how to use it, I'm going to give you some tips, at least stuff I do. So that will be our next segment. And I'm signing off for today. So bye-bye. And hopefully that went through.